Imagine waking up and everything costs more, not a little more. Not just one thing, everything. Coffee, gas, groceries, rent. You didn't change anything. You didn't spend more. You didn't take more risk. But somehow, your money feels smaller, like it's shrinking. Quietly, slowly, without asking, and no one hands you a clear explanation. They say words like inflation, like it's just part of life, like it just happens. But it doesn't, because prices don't rise randomly. Money doesn't lose value on its own. Something causes it, something pushes it, something builds it. Over time. This is what if, and here's what actually causes inflation too. At first, the explanation sounds simple. More money means higher prices. That's what people say. If everyone suddenly has more money, they can spend more. And when people spend more, prices go up. It sounds logical. More demand, same supply. So businesses raise prices, and that's part of the story, but not all of it. Because sometimes prices rise even when people aren't spending more. Sometimes inflation shows up when everything else feels the same, and that's when things get more complicated. Because inflation isn't just about money, it's about systems. Because money doesn't exist in isolation. It moves through layers, banks, governments, businesses, consumers, and each one changes how money behaves. So when inflation happens, it's usually not one cause. It's pressure building across the system, slow at first, then harder to ignore. Money creation. When governments and central banks add more money into the system, that money has to go somewhere. It flows into banks, into markets, into businesses, into people. At first, it feels like growth, more lending, more investing, more spending. But over time, that extra money starts chasing the same goods. And when more money chases the same things, prices rise, not because things are more valuable, but because money is less scarce. But that's only one piece. There's also supply. If goods become harder to produce or harder to move, there's less available. And when supply drops, prices rise again. You saw this with fuel, with food, with housing. When supply tightens, prices respond. And then there's behavior. When people expect prices to rise, they act differently. They buy sooner. They stock up. They spend faster. Businesses respond too. They raise prices early, to stay ahead. And that expectation alone can push inflation higher. But the deeper cause is how money is created in the first place. Because most money isn't printed. It's borrowed into existence through loans. When banks issue loans, they create new money, which means more debt. Also means more money. So when borrowing increases, the money supply expands. And when that expansion happens too quickly, the system heats up. Governments play a role too. Spending programs, stimulus, deficits, these inject money directly into the economy. And while they can help in the short term, they also increase long-term pressure. Because more money without more production creates imbalance. And then there's trust. Because money only works if people believe in it. If they believe it will hold value. If that trust weakens, people move faster. They spend quickly. They avoid holding cash. And that accelerates inflation even more. Now all of these forces start stacking. More money, less supply, faster spending, weaker trust, and inflation stops being temporary. It becomes persistent, harder to control, harder to reverse, because once prices rise, they rarely fall back. They stabilize at a higher level, and eventually, the system reacts. Interest rates go up, borrowing slows, spending pulls back, growth weakens, because the same system that created inflation now has to slow it down. But slowing it down comes with consequences. Businesses cut back, jobs become less secure, and the pressure shifts again. So inflation isn't just about prices, it's about imbalance. Too much money, too little supply, too much speed, and not enough stability. It builds quietly, across decisions, across systems, across time, until it shows up in everything you buy. The question isn't just why are prices going up? It's deeper than that. It's about how the system is designed, how money is created, how it moves, and how it's controlled. Because inflation isn't random. It's the result of choices, layered over time. And if those choices continue, so will the outcome. So maybe the real question is this: if we understand what causes inflation, why do we keep creating it?